You say you want to do stuff, you go out, you buy everything to get it done, and then boom, you crash and you're like, I just can't. Like I want to do it, but I'm struggling with it and I can't figure out where to start. And man, I had this motivation, but now I don't. Well, we're going to talk about self-discipline today. Why you have to have self-discipline. And it's really not about the motivation. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. I'm so excited to be here with you. Now, you are hearing this, and it's funny because this really goes directly into today's topic. You're hearing this on the Sunday that I'm back from vacation, but I'm recording it before I go. And I needed the discipline to do it. And so we're going to talk a lot about self-discipline because boy, oh boy, without self-discipline, I don't even know where I'd be, to be honest with you. Like I'm not even being dramatic. Like nothing would get done. If I was always waiting to feel like it, nope, nothing would be getting done. I would be just completely in my depression. That's where I would live. So we're going to talk about the 7 reasons why you are struggling with your self-discipline. You can have one, you can have all of them. And over on Patreon, we're going to go deeper into kind of changing that around and how can you switch that up and all of that. So if you're on Patreon, you're going to be getting the combination of this along with the worksheet to kind of help you there. And that also brings me into something about procrastination as well. And we're going to talk about that because somebody reached out to me from Patreon and said that they've downloaded and printed out the worksheets, but they haven't started yet. And we're going to talk about that. And you can find that link to Patreon here anywhere that you're getting your podcast that you're listening to now, or you can just go to patreon.com/the positivity experience. So let's jump into it because, oh my gosh, when I tell you, I love all of the topics that we do because all of these topics have pertained to me. Right? It's not like I studied this and this is what we're going to talk about. Nope. A lot of the things and most of the things that I'm going to talk to you about are things that I've been there, done that, and bought the shirt because it's kind of hard to speak on things that you haven't gone through, though there are some things that you learn and you go, hey, let me prevent this from happening to myself and other people. But in this case, oh boy, this is a big one for me. And if you follow any of my Instagram, if that's your jam, you can follow me over on official Lori Wheeler on my Instagram and now my threads. But oh my goodness, that when I get up and I move my body to work out, it's not just to maintain my body type, but it's for my mental health, right? I do not get up and go, oh my gosh, this is amazingly thrilling. No, but I also don't go into it negative as hell because if you start going into it negative, you're going to talk yourself out of it. And if I give myself 2.5 seconds or more, I am going to talk myself out of just about anything. I can't wait to feel like it. I can't wait to want to do it. But I'm going to set myself up for success. And I'm going to give you these 7 tools here in a minute, or 7 reasons why, and kind of give you a little guidance here. We're going to talk about a lot more about the tools over on the other podcast, but you are going to get some here. And it's so important that you understand that you're trying too hard to feel like it. Motivation is not real. You can have an idea. You can be like, oh my gosh, okay, I have an idea. I feel inspired. I love for you to use the word inspired, not motivated. I'm not inspired. Okay, well, good. Now we got to go deeper into why you're not inspired. We don't worry about the motivation. But I promise you, and as we go through each one of these, I'm going to let you know how it affects me and how I kind of offset that. Because if I don't, like I was saying to you, and again, it's not dramatic for me, that I wouldn't have any clients. I wouldn't have this podcast. I wouldn't be writing my book. I wouldn't have anything done in the house. I might not even have any clean clothes to wear. And I'm not lying to you because if I waited to feel like it between my ADHD and my OCD, and if I'm having a depressional phase or if I'm having an anxious phase, I'd get nothing done. All right. So I want to go with number 1. And this was a big one for me. And I think it's a big one for most of my clients and a lot of you guys. Instant gratification. We've talked about this before. You've got to have delayed gratification. All right. It's real easy. And just recently that happened. I think I told you recently on a recent podcast episode that VidCon week was just a couple weeks ago. And I went out and I spoke at it last year and it was great and it was fun and it was a good time and it came up again. but I still had things that I had to get accomplished. Now, I could have delayed it for a week and gone out there and did all of those amazing things, meet up with a lot of my my creators who are friends, done all of the parties, got all the swag, did all of those amazing things. Sure. But I had to delay that instant gratification of that joy so I can work on my long term. That's not because I wanted to. Oh my God, that is quite the opposite of because I wanted to. It's because I know that I have my goals. I have things that I would like to get accomplished, and it's not always going to be convenient, and it's not always going to be in the right time. So you've got to be able to delay whatever that gratification is, because you don't want to keep pushing things off, because if you keep pushing things off, it's going to be problematic. Now, I've pushed my book back some because other things became more important, and that does happen. So just because you have a plan for something doesn't mean it's always going to stick to that plan. You can have a plan. It doesn't mean it's the plan, right? So think about this. As a human being, we're wired to seek this immediate pleasure. We don't like discomfort. Nope, absolutely not. If you got to go the long way because you know it and you don't have to worry about things, you're often going to do that. Instead, you're going to go the path of least resistance. You've got to stop doing that, because the path of least resistance is giving you, I wouldn't even say it's giving you instant gratification. It's giving you this idea of like, oh, cool, that I don't have to feel uncomfortable. Baby, if you don't feel uncomfortable, you're not going to grow. I can guarantee you're not going to grow. If you keep avoiding the things that you don't want to do, and you keep avoiding the things that are uncomfortable and are challenging, that is going to be problematic, because you're never going to find enough inspiration / motivation to get it done. You might start it and you might be like, okay, oh God, that's harder than I thought it was. Well, this part isn't fun. Well, yeah, no kidding. But you've got to delay that gratification. But the desire for that instant gratification, while it's making it more challenging to stay inspired, to stay disciplined, it's like, you have to understand, even though it's doing that and you see this short-term pleasure, okay, that short-term pleasure is only going to be temporary. You're only going to get a temporary dopamine hit. I promise you, I have lived it. I have done it. I have wanted everything from an instant perspective. I mean, like I said, there's certain things. I think I talked to you about this recently. And the reason that we're doing another self-discipline podcast, because we just did one recently, is because you guys said, please do it again. And I'm like, okay. Like, how, because it's only really a 30-minute podcast. And I could tell you the exact same thing. And a lot of the times I will, but this is the consistency, right? You can go to therapy, you can go to coaching, you can go to college, you can do all of these things. If you are not repetitive in nature, this is that delayed gratification thing. If you don't go back and constantly re-listen and rethink, so like save this episode. This is, I think, episode 133. Save this episode and come back to it every single day if you need to, on your way to work and you're in traffic. Do it until it starts to click. But even just listening to this podcast, me giving you these tools, me giving you the reasonings behind it, doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing if you're not going to do it. If I gave you the holy grail of life and you never executed it, that's on you. It's not me. It's not anybody else around you. It's you're not executing it. And the problem is you keep putting it off because you're like, oh God, this isn't fun. This is hard. I don't want to do it. Well, yeah, nobody cares that you don't want to do it. That's your id of your ego. The id part of your ego, listen to my ego death series on YouTube. The id part of your ego goes, I want it now. Like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. Don't care. Nobody cares if you meet your goals. I have said this to you a million times. No one cares about your goals more than you do. But you got to understand what they are. Now, since we're going to talk about number 2, which is your lack of motivation, I want to talk to you a little bit about it. And again, motivation, sometimes your motivation is skewed anyway. So first you got to ask yourself, what is motivating you? What is inspiring you? What is interesting enough to you to make that happen? You do not, I talked about this on a previous podcast, you do not go to the gym to lose weight. No, you go to the gym to feel healthier. You go to the gym to get energy. The byproduct of what that going there is may be weight loss, but you don't go for that reason. So if you go into the gym to lose weight and you're there 2 weeks and you've gained a couple pounds because muscle weighs more than fat. And guess what? Your body is going to do that. You don't want to just constantly keep losing. And it's slow, 1 to 2 pounds a week. That's the trainer inside of me. I was a personal trainer for years in my 20s. And you have to understand that you're not going to make those big gains that you're looking for, those big losses that you're looking for. That goes into the instant gratification. And then you go, well, I'm not motivated to work out. Well, of course not, because you're going into it for the wrong reason, right? And if you don't have a clear sense of purpose for that motivation, what your motivation itself is just an idea. You better make sure that it's something that you can achieve and that you're doing it for the right reasons for yourself. You're not motivated to go to therapy so your boyfriend will stay with you. Wrong reason to go to therapy. Wrong reason. You do not go to therapy for another human being. You go to therapy for yourself. You go to the gym for yourself. You eat a little healthier from time to time for yourself. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you see this a lot. I know you've seen it a lot. It might be you at some point. You're going to change your entire being as to who you are. You're motivated to do it because your partner wants you to do it. And then you get resentful, you get let down, you get your feelings hurt. Then you're becoming manipulative because now you're saying, well, I changed for you and I did these things. Okay. The motivation behind that was completely from a different space than it needed to be. So unless your motivation is clear, and you have to understand that with that motivation, it's going to create a level for you to be a little bit more disciplined because you're going to be like, well, I want to achieve this. Again, that's why they need to be attainable goals. They need to be attainable in order for you to be disciplined. You're not just going to lose 100 pounds in a year. And if you do, fine. If you had the surgery, if you have weight loss surgery, you can, and that's fine. But if you're like, okay, this is my motivation, I'm going to do this, that may not be the healthiest for you either if you were trying to do it traditionally. And that's where it comes into being a problem. So you're going to lose the motivation because you're doing it for the wrong reason and you're doing it with this high level of expectation. Well, I'll just go to the gym for the next 3 months and I will be bikini ready. Yeah, wrong reason, number one. And number two, it's unachievable. You can do it, but are you going to have the time? Are you going to have the energy? Are you going to be committed enough to do it? Because just because you want it, you better have the discipline to do it. You better have a marketed out plan for yourself. You better know what you're going to do. You better be realistic. That means you got to research it 1 to 2 pounds a week. Some days you'll lose more. Some days you'll gain, and it is okay. So for one thing, that motivation has to be, your reason has to be for a reason that is going to give you a long-term benefit, not to hold on to somebody, not to look better in some jeans. That's great if that's going to motivate you, inspire you, but you got to be really careful because then you're going to set yourself up for failure. Because what will happen is, even if you get in those jeans, that's not automatically going to make you happy. Okay. So you got to stop thinking, well, if I get in the bikini, I'll be happy. Okay. Yeah. You might feel a little bit better about yourself, but guess what? Then there'll be something else. Oh my God, there's too much skin here. Oh my God, why is there so much skin? Oh my gosh. Okay, there's always going to be something that you're moving the goalposts for, and then you're going to lose that motivation. You better have self-discipline over motivation. Self-discipline is far more important than motivation. The motivation, inspiration is the reason. And so you got to be very, very clear in that nature. But the reason that you're not self-disciplined is because you're making it so big, you're giving it this idea. And another reason is you give it this idea that if you achieve this, you're going to be happy. Stop that. Stop it. Stop. Not having that job isn't going to make you happy for the rest of your life. It might give you instant gratification, but guess what? You might get in there and be like, oh my God, it's great. I got it. I'm making great money. And the next thing you know, you're like a month later, you're like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Like, I'm glad I have the job. I'm happy I have the job, but oh my God, it's not at all what I thought it was going to be. Of course not, because you had this expectation. You got attached. You go back to the podcast on detachment, living detached. It's a great way to live, and it's great. It's a good podcast. And for you to be very, very clear into understanding that the more you get attached to the outcome, the less self-discipline you're going to have. Okay? Because you're doing it, once again, for instant gratification. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. So self-discipline is, like, for example, I am recording this the day above before. That's not a word. the day before we are leaving. It is 2:45. And we're leaving out very early tomorrow, and I still have a million things to do, but this is on my task list. Yes, there are other things that I would need to get accomplished. This is on what I'm doing, and I don't care that I have other things to do. This was on my schedule. This is what I'm doing. Period. Doesn't matter if I want to, doesn't matter. And I could have pushed it off. I could have done it next Saturday when I came home. That wasn't what I wanted. That's not what I was inspired to do. I don't want to keep putting it off because it's only going to hurt me in the long run. Then I'm going to be tired. Then I'm going to be like, oh my God, I really don't feel like recording now. And that's just the facts. So you have to show up for yourself even when you don't want to. And this has literally saved me, right? Even in my deepest, darkest depressional times. Even if I couldn't get up and do everything, I would give myself a baby task. And a baby task would be like, okay, you're going to get up and you are going to shower today. And you're going to brush your teeth. And you're going to drink a large glass of water. Period. I don't feel like it. I don't care that I don't feel like it. I don't care that I don't feel like doing it. I don't care that I feel so overwhelmed. These are baby tasks. I didn't say get up, get my stuff together, and go live life regularly. Nobody said that. But you got to give yourself, because I know that in the long run, it's going to help me. It's not going to give me an instant gratification. It's going to be part of the tools to get me to where I need to be, because that's not going to solve everything, right? So this is so important that you know that. Now, that goes into number 3, which is the poor goal setting. Your goal setting, you better make sure that your goals are descriptive. You're setting unrealistic and very vague goals. Yeah, I want to be successful. What? Okay, what the hell does that look like to you? I want to have a lot of money. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're successful. You better get very clear on what success means. And it goes back to setting your goals, not getting attached to an outcome. Because if you're attached to that outcome, you are going to miss out on opportunities. You are going to be less disciplined because you are not going to get that instant gratification. You're not going to be on the timetable that you are. You're going to be like, oh, but I have other things to do that are way more fun. Yes. There are a lot of things that are way more fun than the things you got to do. But if we lived life doing things that were just fun, nobody would get anything done, ever. Right? And I know you've heard of the acronym SMART, right? SMART goals with the periods in between, right? You have specific, you have measurable. So specific, let's start that. Obviously specific. You don't go, I'm going to clean up the house. That does not, no. Nope. What part of the house are you going to clean? All of it. No, that's not specific. Today, I'm going to clean 3 cabinets in the kitchen and I'm going to do 1 load of laundry. Okay, that's it. You don't need to do it all. You don't need to do it all. This is where your perfectionism, which is fake as fuck, this is where your perfectionism does not exist. Okay, perfectionism is not real. It's not real. You can never achieve something that is unattainable. Perfectionism is unattainable because it doesn't exist. So this is not the time to say, great, my specific goal is on Saturday, I'm going to clean the house from top to bottom and I'm going to declutter on Sunday. That's unrealistic. So specific, measurable, okay? Measurable, okay? Attainable, because you're not going to clean the whole house all day. You're going to be so exhausted and then you're going to be mad at yourself because you didn't get the house cleaned all day. You said you were going to do it. Now you feel like a failure. So why bother doing it at all? All right. These are the narratives that we play in our head. It's got to be relevant. It better be relevant within yourself. You better have relevancy. It can't just, like I said, you can't do it for another person. And it's got to have time limit, a time bound, much like a consequence, right? So if you tell your mom, right, that if she continues to call you at 7:00 on a Sunday after you have told her once that you're not accepting calls after 7:00 unless it's an emergency on Sunday, an emergency, like an actual emergency, not I can't find my glasses, right? Like an actual emergency. And she keeps doing it. You say, if you do it again, right? You're giving somebody the time. If this happens again, I'm not going to answer the phone, like period, on Sunday. It's not going to happen at any time. But you're giving somebody a time. You must do the same with your goals. I'm going to clean the house today. No. Okay. Well then, okay. Like you said, I'll do the 3 cabinets in the kitchen and 1 load of laundry. Okay. So how long do you think that's going to take me? Well, no. I mean, I'll do it throughout the day. No, you will not do it throughout the day. You're too loosey-goosey. You're too, I'll do it when I feel like it. When I tell you recording this podcast was on my list, it was as though it's an appointment with a client. I don't care what else I was doing. This time came. This is what needs to be done. Right? This is what needs to be done. This is on my list. I must show up for myself the way that I would show up for you if you're my client. Oh, and you guys asked me about that. Yes, I do take clients all over the world. My website will be attached to this podcast in the show description. It came to my mind, and I just saw that I had over here on my computer. I had it because somebody was like, "Oh, could you put that on the podcast?" So I did. But so with this time thing, you can't just willy-nilly it, because you're going to find every reason to talk yourself out of it. If I do not lay out my workout clothes, if it's a gym day, I try to go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? I'll do Peloton the other couple days, and then I have a day off. But if I don't lay my clothes out, I'll still go. But it's like, okay, well, oh God, now what am I going to wear? Okay, it's not like I have all that much to choose from, but it's still another step that I don't need the decision fatigue. It is going to give me a reason. Every single day that I wake up, I have to tell myself, listen, what are your goals? Nobody cares how you feel about them. What are your goals? What do you have on the schedule? You got to get specific. And when you have ADHD like your girl here, and then you throw OCD into it with it, which they like to fight each other, I am extremely scheduled. I have to be. And I have a day, like on Sunday, like probably on the plane home, like on Sunday or Saturday or whatever, next Saturday, or I guess will have already passed, but by the time you hear this, but when in real time, next Saturday, I will, on the plane coming back, I have 2.5 hours to sit there and go, okay, what's on my schedule? What needs to be done? What are other things that need to be recorded? What needs to be paid? What needs to be, what are my goals for the week? And I'm going to put it in a color block. I already told you I'm going to do some color blocking. I'm going to do a bunch of things in 2024 for you guys to kind of help you get prepared, so you understand it. But if you're not willing to put in the effort, that means, when I tell you I'll spend a few hours on the weekend getting what I'm doing for the week together. Now, my clients are really easy because they schedule, that's already scheduled in the scheduler. You go on my website, you pick a date, you pick a time, it's in my calendar. So I'll see that for that week. Now, I work around that, and I start at a certain time, I end at a certain time, and I have different things that I do. So I got to be specific. What's important? Because what I thought was going to be important next week might not be. Right? So you have to always be flexible. Don't be so rigid in it. So you got to have those SMART goals, because that lack of goal setting is going to really, really get you in trouble. Now this is another one. Okay. This is number 4, I believe. And this is lack of accountability. You have lack of accountability, right? When you're not held accountable, when you don't hold yourself accountable, when there's no accountability, it's very easy to let go of your self-disciplined. Disciplined. That's not a thing. Self-discipline, right? Again, I have to hold myself accountable. The way that I do that when it comes to, like, I've been trying to pick up some more time and stuff on my Peloton, is Paul, my husband. Paul is my accountability partner with that, right? And I'll send him now, I've been doing it now, so I don't need as much accountability as I did in the beginning. But, I will from time to time, I'll say, oh, guess what I did today? But before, I would just send him something and be like, okay, this was done. And he knows that I have to do it in the morning because I don't have time in the afternoon, and I'm not going to do it in the evening. I could lie to you and tell you I'm going to do it. I know me, and I'm not. And he would say, oh, well, you haven't messaged me. Like, did you get it done? Like, if it's not a gym day, he'd be like, did you get it done? Oh, yeah, I got it done. Sorry, my bad. And I'll send him, I don't just say I got it done. I'll send him like my activity tracker on my phone. But you don't always need another human being. You can't, listen, now my watch is talking to you. You can't always use another human being as your accountability either, because then that'll be an excuse. Well, I don't have anybody to be accountable to. No, we're not going to create excuses. Your goals got to be a hell of a lot stronger than that. And, if you don't have an external consequence, then it's going to be easy for you to procrastinate. So I like to put reminders in my phone. Now, listen, I have to tell myself, get your shit together. Nobody gives a damn. Like, I talk very direct to myself. It's not to be mean. It's because that's what motivates me. I don't need the, hey girl, you got this. Like, they're great and that's lovely to have. I need something a lot more aggressive. So you need to know yourself. And in the reminders, put, hey, don't forget you have this. This is important. You are so much more important than the things that you have going on around you. You really are, right? If you have your dentist appointment tomorrow at 1:00, unless you, for some odd reason, can't go, you're going to show up. You're going to be there. You're not going to be late. Okay. So why the hell would you do that for your dentist and not do that for yourself? Like, ask yourself that. Why? It's okay because you don't want to pay the $50. Oh, that's that external consequence. That's why you have the reminders. And sometimes the external consequences are going to be there. Like, hey, if I don't get this done, if I don't pay my taxes and I don't do this, or I get the extension and I don't pay that, well, I'm going to get in trouble. So that's a consequence, right? So you got to give yourself that. Now, if you have an accountability partner, that's fabulous. Now, I do that with my clients. And I know that if a lot of my clients listen to this, and I know they know that. Like, I'll be like, okay, here's your homework. I'm not going to get mad at you, but I'm going to hold you accountable. Hey, did you get this done? And that's why I was saying to you over on Patreon, somebody DM'd me on the Patreon and said, oh my gosh, like, I just don't know where to start. Well, that's because you're not giving yourself a goal. You're giving yourself this idea that, okay, well, if I get this done, I'm going to feel better. Stop doing things just because you think it's going to be fast and to feel better. In the mental health world, in your life world, in changing who you are, and in growing, it is not fast. You're going to have to get yourself wrapped into that. And often it's going to get harder before it gets easier. Period. It's going to get harder before it gets easier. And that's why you need the discipline, because the moment that it gets a little challenging, if you stop, that's not discipline. That's giving in to something that you don't want to do. Period. That's why you got to make it really easy for you not to do that. And if that means, for me, it's hours on the weekend. I'm going to do a little bit of meal prep. I'm not going to do it for the whole week because I don't want to eat the same thing for 7 days. Like, I don't want to eat the same 3 things. But I do typically the same lunches, or I cut up my millions of things of watermelon. And, I'll do that a couple times a week. And so I have to do that because I don't want to have to decide, because if I go, well, I don't know what I'm doing. What do I want for dinner? Now I'm either eating crappy or I don't. It's like there's a whole combination of things. So you got to set yourself up for success, but you got to do so knowing yourself. So you got to be very honest with yourself when it comes to your discipline. Now, number 5 is overwhelming tasks. Now, this is prevented when you start having your SMART tasks. You're achievable, you're attainable. And if they seem overwhelming, I'm going to clean the whole house. Yeah, that's overwhelming. I'm going to clean 3 cabinets and I'm going to do it at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And it's going to take me about an hour and a half to 2 hours, just whatever guesstimation that you have. And it's okay if it runs over a little bit, but don't go too far. Know when to stop, because sometimes it's not just starting, it's also stopping. We don't need to always complete tasks. If it's on there for an hour and a half, you're done in an hour and a half. You don't get it all done, that's fine. You've got to stop thinking you must complete this task. Perfectionism. It's okay. Guess what? Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, you can finish that and then have something else on your list. It's not going to be overwhelmed if you do your micro goals. If you listen to episode 37 of this podcast, I talk about micro goals, and I promise you I'm going to do another one. You guys have said, please do another one. So it's up closer to the top of the podcast. It's coming. I promise it's there. But your micro goals are going to be like the key to so much, because if not, of course, it's going to be demotivating. You walk into the house and you have clothes everywhere and dishes everywhere and you're doing all this stuff and you go, okay, I gotta clean. Oh God, I don't feel like I'm going to go watch Netflix. That's your girl's go-to. I'm going to go sit on the couch. I'm going to crochet, because crocheting is way more, or playing my Switch. I'm going to do either one of those because it's way more fun. So I can't wait to want to do it, and I have to break it down into small tasks. And it isn't going to be all of those things in one day. So you got to remember, not only do you want the SMART goals, but you want to keep in mind that it isn't fast, and you got to break it down into baby steps. You keep shitting on the baby steps. Baby steps are your best steps. You must have baby steps in order to get to where you're going. You get too attached down there. Knock it off. That's why you're overwhelmed, because you don't have a clear goal and you don't have a good reason, right? You're doing it just because you think you have to do it. Now there's some things you got to do in life. Yes. But you don't have to get those dishes done today. If you would like to, then cool. Put it on your schedule. Do it as soon as you're done eating. Do whatever it is. You're going to have to trial and error this. But it's got to be micro goals. Okay? Now, Number 6 is the lack of habit formation. You got to stop thinking that you're going to do something 3 or 4 times and, oh my God, it's going to be great. Listen, it takes like about 120 days to start to make it a part of life. Really, seriously. It takes about 4 months, right? People will tell you 21 days or 28 days. It starts to build a habit. 120 days is where you start to really it's second nature. Now you have a system and a routine. You're not giving yourself enough time, right? That's why you have to have behavioral activation. What is behavioral activation, you ask? Let me tell you. So when you have behavioral activation, it is though you are acting as though the person you want to become. So when you got to act like it, you got to act. You got to act. You got to be there before you feel like being there. The more you do it, the less challenging it is. And it's going to be your mindset. Okay. Well, and that's your last one. I'm going to tell you that in a second, because there's a lot of emotional factors. We know stress, anxiety, depression, bipolar, OCD, ADHD. We know that those are a thing, but these tools I'm giving you as a person who has mostly everything I just said to you, has been a lifesaver, but I have to show up for myself every day. I have to show up for myself every week and do it, even if I don't want to. The journals, the meditations, the other things. Yeah, it's a lot to be me. Everybody's like, oh gosh, you're so peaceful. It is a lot to be me. I do a lot. I am very, now I'm not maniacally scheduled, but for the things that need to be done throughout the day, I'm maniacally scheduled. But when I'm done, I'm done. When I sit outside by my pool in the summertime, or if I'm in the mountains or skiing or something on a Sunday in the winter, I'm not peopling. I don't necessarily need a million people around me. That's my decompression time. So I will always find balance, but I will be structured and scheduled. Right? And I mean, that's just how it is. And so, if you haven't developed the habit, a habit is discipline. Even if it's a bad habit, you're disciplined to do the bad habit, right? It's like go to. So in order to create a good habit, you got to replace, right? Am I saying that right? Yeah. If in order to have a good habit, you have to replace the negative habit with something good, but it isn't going to be like, well, let me replace this overnight. Well, that is not realistic. You're not going to replace everything at one time. Stop it. Stop being like, okay, well, I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to clean the house and I'm going to start this new business and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Oh, no, you're not. You're not going to do any of that. You're going to go buy all that stuff and you're going to be like, oh my God, I don't feel like doing it. I'm exhausted. Now, number 7 is your mindset. Number 7 is your mindset. I have to remind myself of this all the time, because in the morning, if my brain goes, oh God, I don't know that I feel like going, I have to immediately interrupt that and be like, okay, so I'm going to get up. Like I just totally ignore myself. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to get up and I'm going to put on the clothes that I already laid out, or I'm going to do no matter what it is, journaling, whatever. I'm going to get up and I'm going to do it. And I have all these little reminders that go off in my phone and my watch and, all of these things. So I can't really I guess I could ignore it, but it's not going to help me. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help my mental health, because it's going to linger in the corner. Like the big gray elephant's going to linger there, and it's just going to annoy me, and it's going to sit there. It's going to sit on my shoulders, and it's going to make my life way worse. And I know this because I lived it. So that's why your mindset, it's how you see the world around you. This is so important in every area of your life, and especially goals, especially your self-discipline. Oh my God, it's going to be hard. Yeah, well, you know what? Life is hard. I don't know what to tell you. Yep, it's going to be hard. It's supposed to be. Oh, growth is hard. Yep. Not growing is harder. Oh, but there's traffic. Yeah, there is. So turn on my podcast, turn on a podcast, listen to murder podcasts, do whatever you need to do. You can't change things. But if you're going to go into the day and be like, oh God, I don't want to do it. Like, listen, tomorrow we're going to get up tomorrow morning at like 4 something, get up. Okay. Wow. That's not on my regularly to do. Hey, this is fun. But I know in the long run, okay, got to go to the airport. I'm going to park. Then I got to go to the airport. Cool. Then, you check in, then you wait, then you board, then you get there. It's a day of travel. It's a couple hours of travel, right? You know how that goes. That's not necessarily enjoyable. But if I get up and go, oh my God, it's early. I mean, I might be like, whoa, it's early. But I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh my God, it's early. Oh my God, why am I doing this? It's so hard, so tiring. That's going to ruin your entire moment. And don't let these moments, you might have those like, oh God, it's early. Yeah, my alarm goes off. I'm going to be like, ugh. I'm going to get up and be like, okay, let's go. Like I'm going to get up and I'm just have to keep moving and not give into that. And it's going to take you time. If you need help with it, book a session with me. I got you. But it's not going to be a session that's going to get you through it. It's going to give you direction. I can give you direction. I can give you the tools. If you don't use them, it's not going to matter. So, I know people are like, wow, I was really doing good with the journals and then I stopped. Okay, so you get back on the horse. When you become used to doing it, you're going to miss doing it because now you've replaced that negative habit of not doing it with a positive habit of doing it. So that is the deal on discipline, self-discipline. We're going to go deeper with some tools and a little worksheet over on Patreon. But I think this is a really good place to leave you because you know why it's there. And it could be every single one of those. And that's fine. And you can have the emotional factors. But you got to work on that too. Yes, I tell you, being a human is hard. Growing is hard. You're like, oh my God, I got to get up. I got to have a color block. I got to schedule my time. It sounds way more overwhelming than it is. I promise you, because you don't realize how much time you will free up and how much better you're going to feel, but you're always going to have a place to grow. You're always going to have those things. Don't look at it negatively, because if you look at it negatively, well, now we're just back in that loop. So breathe, be compassionate to yourself, be patient, because you're going to go forward, you're going to go backwards. That's how healing is. But you got to give yourself time to do the work. You deserve it. You're important, and show up for yourself 100 times even more than how you show up for everybody else.